Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Simone here. So today I will be filming my Stand Up to the TBR part 4, which I'm really excited about. I finally finished reading the books from my last one, which I will link the part 3 down below for you so you can go and check that out. But first, before I start talking about the books that I will be reading in the coming months, I will just quickly say, if you don't know what my Stand Up to the TBR series is, it basically is where I go to my Goodreads and I look at the oldest books that I have on my TBR and I read them, and then that's basically it. I read them. I decide to get rid of them off my TBR if they're not really interesting to me anymore. And yeah, I'm enjoying this process so much so far. I think I've read 21 books for my Stand Up to the TBR series so far, which is really, really good, and it's made me read books that I wouldn't necessarily have read otherwise, or at least not at that moment, let's put it that way. So I'll just quickly talk about the books that I have read because of the third part. I will quickly mention those. So just very quickly to say, the first book that I want to talk about, I said in my Stand Up to TBR number 3 that I was going to read Curio by Evangeline Denmark if I had it in the local library, and they didn't, so I didn't read it and I decided to take it off my TBR. Then I read A False Report, A True Story of Rape in America by T. Christian Miller and gave it a 4-star, and that was in June. In July I read Another Day in the Death of America by Gary Young and gave that one a 3-star. In August I read This Is Where It Ends by Marika Nijkamp and gave that one a 3-star. And I read The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls and gave it a 3-star, and Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson and gave that one a 5-star. And I didn't read any in September, but so far in October I read A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness and gave that one a 4-star, Monster Island by David Wellington and I gave that one a 2-star, and The Things We Keep by Sally Hepworth, which I gave a 3-star. So yeah, I've had quite a good reading month of those ones, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what the next ones hold. So let's open up my Goodreads. I haven't looked at this list yet and I'm really excited to see. I always like it if I own some, so that would be really cool to see if I do. Yeah, I'm excited. So the first one I have is a book called This Census Taker by China Miéville. Not sure how you say that, sorry. And this seems to be a fantasy novella about a boy who witnesses something traumatic and is, I believe, like abandoned on a hill with his parent, and then somebody comes and knocks on the door and he feels like his abandonment is over. I'm not sure, but I've decided I'm actually going to remove this one from my TBR because I'm just not excited about it. And I always think, this is the thing for me, I don't want to spend money on a novella because firstly, it's like the shortest book in the world. And if I'm not excited about it, I kind of think, what's the point? So yeah, I'm definitely going to take this one off. Then the second one, oh goodness me, okay. Oh, I'm kind of scared about this one, I won't lie. Okay, so the next one is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, which is the first book in the Mistborn trilogy, I believe. And we all know that I'm very nervous about Brandon Sanderson books. I tried to read The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson and really couldn't get along with it. I really struggled to, like, I don't know, I struggled to get into it and I really just couldn't read it. Then I read Steelheart because, funnily enough, of the Stand Up to the TBR last month, and as you know and as I said earlier, I gave it a 5-star, so I was really excited. So I'm interested to see how I find this. This is very much high fantasy. I'm not a big high fantasy reader, so this should be definitely interesting. I don't know anything about it, so I'll just really quickly read the back. It says, "The mists rule the night, the Lord Ruler owns the world. For 1,000 years the ash fell. For 1,000 years the scar slaved in misery and lived in fear. For 1,000 years the Lord Ruler reigned with absolute power and ultimate terror, divinely invincible. Every attempted revolt has failed miserably. Yet somehow hope survives. A new kind of uprising is being planned, one that depends on the cunning of a brilliant criminal mastermind and the courage of an unlikely heroine, a Scar Street urchin who must learn to master allomancy, the power of a Mistborn. What if the prophesied hero had failed to defeat the Dark Lord? The answer will be found in the Mistborn trilogy, a saga of surprises that begins here." And I've really heard amazing things about this book, so I am kind of excited to read it and get to it, but it is like, how long is it? Like 650 pages long, so I'm intimidated, but I'm kind of glad this is making me read this because it's been on my shelf for ages. Next up is another one I own, which is amazing. I'm really excited, and it's non-fiction, which is great because I generally read 3 of my Stand Up to the TBR books a month, and it's non-fiction November next month, and that's what I'm planning on reading, and this is non-fiction, so it adds to that really nicely. This one is Prison Gate by David Ramsbotham, The Shocking State of Britain's Prisons and the Need for Visionary Change. Now, I'm really excited about this. It follows, obviously it's about David Ramsbotham, who in December 1995 he was appointed the Chief Inspector of Prisons, and he then carried out an unannounced inspection of HM Prisons Holloway, and was disgusted by the conditions that he found, and I believe it's about that. Now, I know obviously this was written, I don't actually know when this was written, I believe it's around about 1995, I guess. But I have this sort of weird fascination with prisons and kind of what happens in prison, and like I really love documentaries, I love non-fiction books, and I'm getting more and more into them, so I'm really excited that this is one of them on the list, because I've been wanting to read this for a while. It's also not very long, it's like not even 250 pages, so I'm very, very much excited, and I can't wait to get to this one. Next up, I have another fiction book that I own. I'm doing it well, this is 3 for 3. I'm really excited to be reading books off my shelf that have been there a while. This one is Still Missing by Chevy Stevens, which I believe is a thriller story. I don't know anything about it though. As far as I can tell, it's about a woman who was abducted, and I don't know anything more. I watched Becky from Beck's Books talk about, I think she was unhauling all of her Chevy Stevens books because she had them on Kindle or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that she really likes, I'm assuming she really likes Chevy Stevens, the fact that she was talking about reading more. Yeah, I'm really excited to read. I've never read a Chevy Stevens book, but I've heard lots and lots of good things. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this, and this has been on my shelf for a while, so I'm quite excited to finally get to it. Next up, I've just seen the next 3 books are all non-fiction, and I'm so excited. I love non-fiction books, and I'm really getting into them, so I cannot wait to read more. I think most of the non-fiction books I have are going to be difficult reads because of the subject matter, and this one I think probably is going to be one that really, really touches me. This one is 102 Minutes, The Untold Story of the Fight to Survive Inside the Twin Towers by Jim Dwyer and Kevin Flynn. Now, as everybody pretty much knows, in 2001 obviously the Twin Towers were subject to a terrorist attack, and I think it says here 14,000 people were inside the Twin Towers, and this actually makes me feel sick. I'm so like, it makes me just feel really, really sad. And I obviously don't live in America, and so I've heard obviously a lot about the Twin Towers attack and a lot of things that have happened, but I'm not as educated as I kind of wish I was about the things, and I wish I knew more people's stories to kind of be able to remember the people rather than the terrorists, if that makes sense. So this sounds really just like a well thought out and well put together book, and I'm very much looking forward to reading this and yeah, giving it a go, because like I said, it's absolutely heartbreaking what happened, and this is definitely a story that I am looking forward to reading more about. Obviously not a story, this is true life, and that makes it even more terrifying. So the next up is another one that I am excited about reading the non-fiction book of, but the one on my Goodreads is called, and I'm going to read it off my screen, it's called Cries Unheard, Why Children Kill, The Story of Mary Bell by Gita Serini. Now, I didn't actually realise that is actually the second book in Gita Serini's kind of investigations of the story of Mary Bell. So I actually own the first one, which is obviously not that one. I'm going to take that one off my TBR because I think it's like a textbook type story, type book, and I'm not going to read that one, I don't think, but I am going to read, and I'm going to read it in place of that one because it is obviously the same story by the same author. This one, which is The Case of Mary Bell, A Portrait of a Child Who Murdered by Gita Serini, and this is really scary. And actually I've just noticed on the top of here it says, with a new preface and appendix about the death of James Bolger. Now, I also believe I have a book by James Bolger's father, Ralph Bolger, about the murder of James Bolger by 2 children. And the idea of children murdering is something that is terrifying to me, and I would like to know more about the mindset of children and how they come, like why they do these things. I really don't know too much about the story of Mary Bell, and I feel like that's something that I really should know about. But it's obviously like I said, I'm not really knowledgeable of what happened, but I'm obviously assuming that Mary Bell murdered another child. And I mean, in the picture on here, like, you would never think that was a face of somebody who was going to murder someone, especially not a child who would murder someone else. So I'm very much looking forward to reading this and kind of reading the psychology behind it, possibly. So yeah, this is the one I'm going to read. It's not actually the same one as obviously what was on my list, but definitely this is one that I'm going to sort of put instead of, and I'm looking forward to reading this one as well. Another non-fiction book that I own. I think this is 5 for 5 now. This is ridiculous. I have loads of these books and I'm so excited about it. So next up is another one I do actually own, but I own it on my Kindle, so I will obviously put the picture up for you here, and I'm going to read it off the screen because it's quite a long title. So this is called Asking For It, The Alarming Rise of Rape Culture and What We Can Do About It by Kate Harding. So obviously this is another non-fiction book that I own. Again, 6 for 6 now. I could not be happier with this list so far. I'm very much looking forward to reading the books on it. This basically obviously talks about rape culture, and I read the book Asking For It, funnily enough, same title, by Louise O'Neill, but that was a fictional story and I really liked it, and I felt that it was a really important read. I also, obviously, from my last Sign Up To The TBR last month, I said I read A False Report, which is again about the kind of culture, the rape culture that is existent. So this is another one I'm looking forward to reading and kind of finding out a bit more about what we can do to stop that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think, again, it's a non-fiction book that I'm really excited about, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading this list. The next one on the list is a horror novel, and that is Domain of the Dead by Ian McKinnon. And this is not a book that I currently own, but it is a book that I'm going to buy so I can read it for this Sign Up To The TBR, because it's a zombie novel, and I don't know anything specific, but if you know me and you've seen my channel before, you know that I do like to read zombie novels. I like to see what the new perspective is, because I think zombie novels can generally be quite samey, but there are some amazing zombie novels where they actually add something quite different, and I really like that. So this is one I'm going to keep on my TBR, and I'm definitely going to have to purchase it so that I can read it and see what's different about this one. And I've just looked at the next two on the list. I saw them on the computer and I own both of them. So out of the 10 books on this list, one of them I've taken off my TBR, one of them I don't own but I'm going to, and the rest of the 8 I own all of them. So that is very exciting to be able to say that I'm going to read 8 books off my shelf and be able to have cut down my TBR a bit too. The next one is Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden, and this is a vintage copy of this book, and I love this cover. I've not seen this. Mostly it's the picture of the geisha woman on the front of it. For some reason I just really like this. I have actually seen the movie of Memoirs of a Geisha, and a long time ago, and I really enjoyed it. This basically says, a young peasant girl is sold as servant and apprentice to a renowned geisha house. She tells her story many years later from the Waldorf Astoria in New York. Her memoirs conjure up the perfection and the ugliness of life behind rice paper screens, where young girls learn the arts of geisha, dancing and singing, how to wind the kimono, how to walk and pour tea, and how to beguile the land's most powerful men. And I think this sounds really interesting. I feel like it's a culture that I don't know much about. Again, seeing the film, I know some aspects of it. They talk about some of the culture, some of the kind of Japanese culture. So yeah, very much looking forward to reading this. I really liked the film, as I said, and I'd love to read this and then rewatch the film. So excited this one's on the list, and I just love this cover. I absolutely love it. I think it's gorgeous. And then the final one is probably the one I'm the most excited about on this list. And I've been wanting to read this book for ages, and for some reason I keep putting it off because I'm scared that I'm not going to like it. But it is Wolf by Wolf by Ryan Groudon, who I've heard so many good things. This is set in Germany in 1956, and it's a world where Hitler won the war, and it's kind of like a alternative reality type thing. And it follows a girl named Yael. I think you know if you watched my baby girl name videos that I don't know how to say the word Yael, but Yael? Yes. 17-year-old Yael wants to enter a motorcycle competition because the winner of that competition gets to meet Hitler, and she wants to meet him and kill him. And yeah, I love reading about World War II, as you all know, and this is kind of like after World War II, but I feel like it's going to have some of the same like ideas behind it, because obviously it's to do with Hitler and the war and things like that. So this fascinates me very much, and I'm definitely looking forward to finally being able to read this book, because I've been wanting to read this for some time. There you have it, guys. That is my Stand Up To The TBR books 31 to 40, number 4, and I could not be happier with this list. I'm really, really excited to read the books on this list. I'm really happy that I own most of them, bar one, because I really just want to be able to knock down my TBR as well, and at the same time read some great books. And yeah, I can't wait to read these and let you know what I think of them. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these and what you thought of them, and if you're interested in reading any of them now I've talked about them. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and come back next week. I upload every Monday and Friday at 5 PM, so please do come and check out my channel and give it some love. Thank you very much, guys. See you next time. Bye.